Hello and welcome to another edition of the SpareTime Podcast with me, Nigel, and him, Ben. And it's sponsored by ADR Wear, so we'd like to thank them for sponsoring us. On this edition, Ben's forgotten his studio light, so I'm going to try and improvise. Do you think that looks good?
No, it looks terrible.
Okay, right. Oh, you're going to have to do. Everybody's going to have to put up with the with the darkness on the on this one because
it's fine.
He's forgetting half the equipment.
He looks better in bad lighting. So
right. So tonight, our guest. I say tonight. Well, it's tonight here. Our guest is another one from the USA and another PBA bowler, and we would like to welcome Landin Jordan.
Hello, thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you for coming. It's appreciated. Whereabouts in the US are you?
I'm from Illinois, about an hour west of Chicago.
Oh, okay. So you're pretty far north now. Now that part of the US as well is a lot of bowling activity, isn't it? We've often made the comment that a lot of the bowling activity seems to be centered on the Illinois area, the northeastern part of the US. Why do you think that is?
I would just say that for whatever reason, a lot of bowlers kind of grow up around this area, and it just they stay around this area, and a lot of people end up running tournaments in this area. So, I mean, we get a lot of entries. I know, like, there's also big areas of bowling in Texas and Florida and in the West Coast as well. But for some reason, that Chicago area has just been unbelievable to have so many amazing tournaments and so many amazing tournament directors.
Yeah, I guess it's because obviously in the winter the weather's pretty cold up there, where places like Texas and California it's not quite so bad. So people want to do things indoors. So I'm sure that might play a part too.
Yeah, I could definitely see that having a factor for sure.
So you're probably one of the youngest guests we've had on the SpareTime Podcast. You're 18, and you're probably one of the youngest PBA players. So, you know, how did bowling come about? Where did your journey in bowling start?
So I've pretty much bowled my entire life. My father bowls, my mother bowled as well. But my dad was a pretty good amateur bowler himself. So kind of as soon as I was born, I was pushing a ball down the lane. But competitively, I started bowling around the age of 7. I bowled in my first tournament, and I was able to win my first tournament. And from there, I just never wanted to stop.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, you've already had your fair share of, you know, PBA experience, and I'm right in saying you're not actually a PBA member as of yet, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So you're a SCAD commit. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So I committed to SCAD, I believe, the end of the last summer. I knew I wanted to go to school before I go out on tour, so I visited a few different schools, and SCAD was the one that caught my attention the most due to the academics, and also the bowling program there is amazing. Coach Katie is great, and that program has had much success. So to be able to go there and compete with those guys the next 4 years, I'm looking really forward to that.
Yeah. So obviously, are you at college now, or do you go full 25?
No, I'm going in the fall of this year.
Awesome. So full 25. So what are your expectations looking like for this upcoming semester and even your whole college career?
Yeah, I'm just looking to have fun with the team. You know, I've never really gotten the experience of long-term team competitive bowling. So to be able to go to practice with a team each and every day and work with guys every day and having that team bonding experience, I'm really looking forward to that. And to just be able to compete with the guys every weekend, it's going to be a blast. And I'm really looking forward to it. Just trying to build a dynasty the next 4 years and compete at the best of each of our abilities.
So, well, and you go to SCAD, so it's the Savannah College of Art and Design. For those who didn't know, what are you going to study there?
I'm going to major in television and film, so I kind of want to go into sports broadcasting would be the goal. I also do hope to plan to go on tour one day, so kind of find a way to manage those two things.
So do you think you can maybe combine with what you learn at college with your bowling career somehow?
That would be the plan, you know, whether it's working for Bowl TV when I'm not bowling or something like that, where I can compete on tour for 4 or 5 months of the year and then go off and do some kind of job elsewhere.
That sounds pretty good. So just coming back to my first question about how you got into bowling, you said that your parents were bowlers and you started competitively at 7 years old. So interesting question here. for somebody who started young, did you start one-handed or two-handed?
I always bowled two-handed, which is funny because I have a twin brother and he was always one-handed. So, but it's just kind of the way I picked up the ball and it was most comfortable.
Yeah, we've had many conversations about that on this podcast. How two-handed bowlers became two-handed bowlers. I mean, Ben, he started about the same age as you. He was one-handed for many years, and then he just decided to change. But people like Belmo, I'm told that he started two-handed because he couldn't pick the ball up with one hand. So he started at such a young age, he ended up two-handed, and that's where that came from. So it's interesting that when you get kids of that sort of age, how some of them start on one-handed and the other ones ended up in two-handed. But it's obviously two-handed now is the way to go, because that's where there's more and more bowlers bowling two-handed. Are you finding in the US that now that two-handed bowling is much more prevalent and much more significant? Are you finding that new young kids of sort of 6, 7, and 8, are you finding that they're being coached in two-handed, or are they let just to go to one-handed for a start?
Yeah, I mean, in the States, I think it's a wide variety right now. I think more so of people who kind of start the sport when they're in high school are just starting to do it two-handed because it's just easier at a later age to just get started two-handed. But I think for the younger kids that are getting into the sport, it's kind of still 50-50 on whether they start two-handed or one-handed from what I've seen. But in the high school levels, I definitely feel like we see a lot more two-handers than one-handers.
Okay, and there's a bias here. I'm not sure about the US, but there's a bias here that there's more boys that are two-handed than girls. Is that the same there?
Yeah, it is the same here right now. But the more and more we see more two-handed girls, which is pretty cool to see.
Yeah, why do you think that happens, or why do you think the boys are taking more to two-handed than the girls have?
I'm not sure. It definitely is an interesting question. But if I had to guess, it would just probably be just the way that you watch. Usually the guys watch the guys growing up, and the girls watch the girls growing up. So, they want to be like the Verity Crawleys and the Danielle McEwens and the Shannon O'Keefe. So they want to do it like them, would be my guess on why they do it that way. But as we continue to grow, we expand more and we try different things. So they're starting to branch out and try the two-handed style, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. I think, to be fair, from what I've seen and when I've spoken to the likes of Chris Barnes and even Tom Clark, when we've spoken to them, it's been very much the idea of guys are generally a lot more of a power player. They're a lot more speed dominant, where on the sort of the women's side of bowling, it's a lot more accuracy based, and you don't see many absolute crankers and people who are ripping the cover off the ball one-handed as in the women's side as much. You still see it, but not as much as you see it on the guys' side. You don't see like an EJ Tackett, for example. There's a lot less of them on the women's side, so because of that, because the guys are looking for, well, how can I just get as high a rev rate as I possibly can? How can I throw it as hard as I can? How can I generate as much power? I think that's kind of why we've seen it a lot on the men's side, and now a lot of the sort of up and comers in the women's game now, they kind of look at it and going, well, hang on, these guys can do it, so can we. And if I'm going to start throwing this two-handed and get some of the same power that the guys are getting, then I'm going to be flying.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the more that we see guys and girls compete together, like I know for us, all the youth tournaments here, the guys and the girls compete together in the same lane conditions on the same lane. So the girls have to keep up with the guys a lot of the times, and the girls with the higher rev rates at the end of the block tend to have more success because they're able to keep up with the transition. So I think if we continue to do that, we also see more girls get higher rev rates and try out different styles.
Mm-hmm. So talk to me about your plans going into college. Are you going to spend 4 years in college, knuckling down, bowling, exclusively college bowling, or are you going to continue to do what you did this past year, where you're at the World Series and you're at the Masters and things like that?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to do quite as much as I did this year. This year, I was pretty fortunate to get to compete at 3 different majors, but I do still plan on trying to hit the Masters and the U.S. Open at least while I'm at college. But missing a month for college while it's at the World Series would probably not be as possible as it was for me to do in high school this year. But definitely look forward to getting the stops I can get to. Definitely looking to do some regionals before I get to college, and hopefully while I'm at college. And but as far as the national tour, I don't know that I'll be able to do it as much as I was able to this year.
Yeah, so obviously, focusing on that PBA breakthrough this year, I believe your first televised appearance was this year against Jacob Buttriff, right, on the PBA Shark?
Yeah, I bowled Butters in the Shark in the match play. I bowled Rafiq the first round, and I beat Rafiq to bowl Buttriff. But I made the show at the prelim show for the U.S. Open, where I bowled Chris Bray there.
Yeah, so talk to us about that. What was that experience like? I mean, I know, you've won the PBA Junior before. You won Junior Gold as well. So you're definitely not a stranger to being on TV. But how did that differ to being at the youth level and then being on the sort of on the main stage, I suppose you could put it?
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly, it was actually a lot different. For me, I was kind of expecting it to feel pretty similar as it did before, but it was definitely much different. The stakes were much higher, and the pressure was definitely there. But I really enjoyed my experience there. To be, I mean, the youngest in the field and to make the show was really cool. And to be on a show with 8 major champions was pretty surreal. But there's really nothing like bowling on TV. There's nothing that can really prepare you for bowling on TV other than just being out there and learning from failures and coming back stronger the next time.
Yeah, so obviously, let's focus on this TV appearance. What was going through your mind when you were, stepping onto that TV pair on the professional scene for the first time? Was it excitement, nerves, or a bit of both?
I was definitely excited, and I was definitely nervous as well. But I made the show the morning before the show aired, so I think the low, not having the short turnaround of finishing and making the show and the excitement and the adrenaline to then being on the show just a few hours later, I think I wasn't able to fully get mentally prepared for the show. I was still kind of pretty high up on making the show as it was, and I think that had an impact on me. But to be able to go out there and just see what it's like and to have that opportunity, I think will just better me for the future of my career.
Yeah, so we spoke to Justin Knowles a couple of weeks ago, and he said, when he had his first telecast, he'd made the finals, and then he didn't actually play the finals until like 3 days after. And he said that he lost that first game he played on TV, but he said, well, maybe it was because I'd had that time to think about it and I'd had that time to overthink about it. Do you think that if you'd have had longer to prepare, you might have done a bit better?
For me, I think so. I just to get my emotions in check, because I was, I think we had about 2.5 to 3 hours before from finishing match play to bowling on the show, and I think I was on the phone, I was texting people, letting them know, and just having a good time, and I wasn't really able to get myself focused back in on the bowling. But just something to learn and for the next time and focus on, and to know what I need to do to be the best version of myself each time I bowl and each different experience.
How long did it take you to adjust to bowling on TV until you started to forget the fact that there was cameras and lights and everything else there, and you were just bowling like you normally would do?
Yeah, I think the practice shots allowed me to kind of get that feel. Like, obviously it's much different having crowd behind you and on the side, but for me, as far as like actually bowling on the lights and on the TV, it didn't really have too much of an impact. To me, it was still just bowling and knocking down 10 pins.
Yeah. I mean, when you started to bowl on the first time you bowled on TV, it was, it was unusual to walk into a bowling alley and find that just sort of 2 lanes were operating and all the rest of them were just basically full of cables and lights and TV cameras and things that are not normally there. It was a bit weird.
Yeah, my TV record's not great though. I'm 0-3 on TV, so.
Well, you haven't had a chance in France later on in the year.
The less spoken about my TV career, the better.
Did that come out on YouTube the other day? Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. So
yeah, it was a quick not watching.
A quick not watch. Was it in French?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, okay. Well, it'd be interesting to see what the commentator was saying.
Well,
we'll have to watch that.
The words I heard were "ooh" as I missed a spare.
Well, it can only get better. So just reversing back to the earlier question, you started your first tournament when you were 7 years old. What was the first tournament you entered?
It was called the Illinois State Scholarship Tour. I bowled in the handicap division. So I definitely had a lot of handicap at the time. And so you bowled 6 games and then you cut to the top 6 for round robin match play. I believe we bowled for 30 pins bonus, just like the PBA. And then at the end, it was 12. After the 12 games, it was just total pins. So I was qualified 6th in it. And then I ended up winning after the match play. So it was pretty cool to win my first tournament.
Yeah, that's a good achievement to win your first tournament. So at what point did you realize that you could go the whole way in bowling and get to the PBA? When did you actually realize that was a real possibility?
Yeah, so I bowled my first regional when I think I was 14, and I finished 5th. I just missed the step ladder, and I think at that point it was kind of like, okay, maybe I can compete with some of the best bowlers in the world. And then last year at the U.S. Open, when I was 17, I bowled, and I finished 15th. I made match play, and I think that event was the first time where I was like, I can compete with these guys week to week. I can come out here, and I can at least grind my way into checks and find my way to have success out here. So to be able to come out this year and to be able to bowl 3 events was so amazing, and to have success in all 3 of them, it was really cool.
So how you received when you're a bowler so young that first time in a PBA, there's the guys there that everybody knows, world famous and that sort of thing, and you're playing alongside those guys. How did they receive somebody like you who is just literally beginning their PBA career?
Yeah, so for me, I've only had positive experiences with most of the guys. They've been very supportive. They look to help me in any ways that they can, and I've been very thankful for all of them. They are very supportive and they are very welcoming. I know it can be challenging to have someone much younger than you come in and have success early. I know it can be frightening, but yeah, they've all been really positive and really supportive. So to have them be so welcoming to me out there, it was really nice, and I think that definitely helped me as well.
Yeah, it's got to be a pretty strange sensation bowling on the same lane as people that you've been watching on bowl TV and that sort of thing for many years. It's got to feel a little bit weird, right?
Yeah, but it's so cool to be able to be on that side of it. I've been watching bowling my whole life, so to be able to be on that side and competing on the lanes is so cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's something we talked about before. The bowling, the top level bowlers are much more accessible than say it would be in any other sport. Somebody of the level of EJ Tackett or Belmore, somebody like that. You just wouldn't be able to get access to those sort of people. But in bowling, you do. I mean, Ben met Belmore when we was bowling in South Point in Vegas back in 2022, and Belmore was in the same restaurant having lunch that we were in. He was 2 or 3 tables away, and when he got up and just went up to him and asked him for a selfie, and he was, it was very accessible, but you couldn't do that in any other sport. Why do you think bowling is so, the top level bowlers are so accessible?
Yeah, I think there's 2 reasons why I think bowling is one of the coolest sports. One being that the bowlers are like, you're able to go up there and you're able to be face to face with them while they compete. If you go watch them bowl a tournament, you can stand right behind them. You can talk to them while they're bowling. Like, just to be able to have that experience and to be able to walk right up to bowlers when they're competing is just, I mean, it makes our sport so much different than any other. And I think it's so cool that you can walk into the bowling alley and see these famous people that you get to that inspire you and you get to look up to and you get to meet them. I think just that part of bowling is what makes it so special.
So in terms of coaching, I mean, you've probably had a number of coaches over the years. What's the availability of coaches like in the US? Have you found it easy to find a coach that is a good fit for yourself?
Yeah, so my dad's actually been my coach pretty much my entire life. Within the last about 4 or 5 years, we started to go to see Andrew Anderson and work with him. But for me, my dad's been, I mean, he coached me pretty much my whole life and got me to where I am today. And he made sure I had anything I needed at all times. And then when he felt like he kind of got me as far as he could, he reached out and found Andrew for us. And we've been working with Andrew on more like the lane play and mental game and kind of the more advanced stuff than more physically. But pretty much for my physical game, my dad's been all the help I've had.
So is your dad a one-handed or two-handed bowler?
He is a one-hander, but he spent countless hours researching the two-handed game for me.
And has he ever been tempted to convert to two-handed bowling?
I would say he's definitely tried. I don't know that his body would be able to handle it, but he had some wrist problems for a while, and I think he definitely tried it for a few days.
Yeah. I know that we see guys here in the UK that they try to go to two-handed bowling, and they're maybe a little bit too old, and it just doesn't look right. It looks very clumsy and uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, some people are able to pick up on it right away, and some people are just, I mean, it just looks very awkward for them. But as far as coaching in the States, at least in most areas, I think it's pretty accessible for youth bowlers or any bowlers to find. I know in the Chicagoland area, there's a lot of coaching opportunities. Every time I go to a different bowling center, I see flyers for different coaches at each bowling center. So I think we also have a lot of training centers. We have TurboTech up in Michigan. We have Kegel in Florida. We have the ITRC down in Texas. So we have the Parker Bone Training Center out east. So to have all those different training centers across the country, I think that is very helpful for us as well.
Yeah, have you been to any of those training centers?
Yeah, so I've been to Kegel, the ITRC, and Turbo. I've never made it out to the Parker Bone training facility yet, but that's one I plan on getting to eventually. But I have been to Kegel, the ITRC, and TurboTech.
Yeah, I mean, we had Parker Bone on last year, didn't we? And he was talking about his training center.
He was, yeah.
You're going to make some comment about it?
Yeah, no. I think for me, it's been one of those where, the Kegel Center having the ITRC there. I mean, can you really get much better coaching in the world than some of those places? Not really. Here was a little bit of a debate that I was having with it was with Verity actually a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about the ITRC compared to the Kegel Center. How would you compare the two?
I think the Kegel Training Center is a little more advanced than the ITRC. The ITRC is great, but I think Kegel still has a beat in their ability to just have different things than anywhere else. I mean, having Kegel in a training facility is huge as well. They have the most advanced oil machines and technology that you can have.
Yeah. So talking about kind of this first experience getting into the PBA, working with Andrew Anderson, all that, what's kind of been the biggest mindset shift you've had from that junior level to the professional and the adult level?
Yeah, so I mean, to start, I think for a little while at the junior level, I felt like my mindset was to win every tournament. And then as I got to the PBA level, the mindset kind of shifted to let me just make the cut. And I think now, after the last couple of years, the mindset is shifting back to I can compete and I can win at any level, no matter who I'm bowling against or where I'm at. So I think my mindset is starting to get back to where it was when I was about 15, 16 bowling in the junior tournaments.
So what would you say the biggest takeaway from this first year bowling professionally is?
I would say for me, it was learning how to have the mental grind of bowling every day for weeks and months straight. I didn't realize how much it really is just brutal and a grind to just get up every morning, go out, grind your butt off, come back, sit in a hotel, eat dinner, go watch bowling, be in a bowling center all day, and just every day is the same thing. And then the next week you're in a new bowling center, you're doing the same thing. I mean, it's just in a bowling center all day, bowling, watching bowling, just learning how to have a mental reset and refresh each day and come in ready to compete and just be ready to do the best that I can.
Mm-hmm. So you're part of the Motive family. How did that sponsorship come about, and what does it mean to have a company like Motive backing you at, only 18?
Yeah, so again, my dad joined Motive in 2010, so he was one of their first staffers. So they were just kind of been my family ever since I started bowling. They've been very supportive ever since I started bowling when I was 7 or 8, and just been able to know the Wilburs pretty well, and I consider them my family. So grown very close relationships with everyone at Motive. To have them to support me and everyone that supports me is, it's really what allows me to be where I'm at today. Without any of them, I wouldn't be as successful as I am.
So you started at a pretty young age. I mean, what did your friends think about you in terms of bowling? Your non-bowling friends. As I know when Ben was at school and he was bowling a lot and he was going to tournaments and things, and some of your friends were sort of saying, "Well, you'll never get anywhere bowling," didn't it? They were quite dismissive of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it might be slightly different over in America where you've got that high school system where, at least over in here for bowling, like there is no sort of pathway to even get into bowling. It's all kind of individual clubs, and there's also not really any exit pathways where for you guys, you've got you'll start bowling where you have like your high school teams, then the clear progression to the college level, and then that sort of progression to the PBA, where here, like in England, you've got your youth teams that you do a couple events in, and then a lot of guys get to sort of 17, 18 and just stop bowling because there is no progression.
Yeah, I think for us as well, bowling is a pretty stereotypical sport. I know when I was younger, I had a lot of people tell me that bowling's not a sport. Why would you do bowling? Like, it's not in the Olympics. It's not a real sport. Like, I had all the comments and everything from when I was younger, and then as I got better and better and I started to have success, people around me started to look at it in a more different way. Because I know when I was younger, a lot of people were like, well, you eat chicken wings while you bowl, or you eat a burger while you bowl. Like, that's not a real sport. A real sport's something that you stay physical on, you're constantly moving. And I was like, well, bowling's it's a grind. Like, it's not easy. Like, it's definitely a sport. It's no different than golf. I think golf and bowling are the two most comparable sports to each other. And just like, there's so many different ways you could compare the two. I think bowling is even though we are very fortunate here to have high school level of competition, and we even do it at some places, we have middle school level of team competition as well. But I think it's still a very stereotypical sport, and it's still looked at in a very negative way. And it's definitely unfortunate, because I know for us, we have large amounts of scholarship funds where you can go bowl a youth tournament or in a youth league, and you can earn scholarship money to go towards college, which no other sport here you can do that. And to have that ability to go out there and have your college paid off from a sport before even getting scholarships or anything like that, it's such an advantage to be able to get ahead and not have to be in debt. But most people just don't see that, and they don't know about it, and it's unfortunate. But unfortunately, I mean, bowling is looked at in a negative way in most areas, but the more that we can grow it and promote it and show how amazing the sport is, I think it's headed in the right direction.
Yeah, 100%. And I think for me especially, where it might be a bit different for you, but I know it was, like you said, very dismissive and kind of, well, it is, that's not a real sport. This isn't how a real sport is. But I think bowling's definitely, it's a lot more of a mental sport, when it's certain where, when people actually take the time to learn about the sport itself, they go, oh, right, there's a lot more to think about. And I know, especially over here, a lot of people didn't take it seriously. My school wouldn't take it seriously, but then they start seeing the places you're going, and and the money that you can start making off it, and then they go, oh, hang on, like there is actually something to do with this.
Yeah, I think I was fortunate enough to throw out the first pitch at a White Sox game a few years ago, and that was kind of the turning point for a lot of people around me, and at least in my school, that they were like, wow, you threw out the first pitch of at a White Sox game because you're a bowler. I was like, yeah, I mean, because I made a junior team, so one of the youth tours that I bowled for had the elite tour had access to the White Sox, and they allowed me to throw out the first pitch, which was such a cool moment to know that bowling was able to bring this moment into my life and made this possible. I mean, bowling allows us to do amazing things, allows us to travel the world. compete, meet people from around the world, meet people from all over. I have friends that are from all over the world, all over the country, and the relationships I would have never had without the sport. And it's allowed me to have my college paid for, and it's allowed me to have kind of a purpose and a meaning for myself, and it gives me something to look forward to every day to go home and practice in order to compete on the weekends or whatever I have to look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that. Obviously, you made Team USA, or the junior Team USA. What was that like, being able to pull on your country's flag?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the highest honor you can have as any kind of athlete, to be able to represent your country. So to be able to make junior team multiple years, and now this year to make the adult team, it was a dream come true. To wear the red, white, and blue is truly the highest honor, I believe, in any sport.
Yeah. So, I mean, stepping on that international stage where you're competing against, all different sort of countries, but you're this time doing it at a team level. You're not playing, a junior competition or even an adult competition where it's you and no one else. You're there with your team, you're there with your country, and you've got so many, more people backing you as a group, and you've got the people alongside you who are bowling with you. How much different did you find that to bowling individually? And I think, what were the biggest takeaways from having that experience?
Yeah, so I've never gotten to travel to bowl any tournaments with Team USA yet. It's something that I hope I get to one day, but we have a camp each year, and to be able to go to camp and bowl with the best youth bowlers in the world and train with them and work with the coaches, it's such an advantage for us to be able to go out there and compete with each other and learn from each other and work with each other, and then just kind of build off of each other. I think that it shows lots of success later on for the people that are able to be at camp and learn from each other.
We're talking about obviously bowling, and when you're at school and when you get a bit older, and people's attitude to it. One thing that we notice here, that when kids get to a certain age, they get to, I don't know, 16, 17, 18. Here, I don't know, it's the same in the States, but a lot you'll find they start dropping out, and they find it of interest, so they don't continue to bowling. They might have been bowling since they were 7 or 8 or whatever, but they get to 17, 18 and they start dropping out. But what we've also noticed here is that the bowlers that stay on beyond that age, they take it much more seriously from an athletic point of view. They work on the fitness, they work on the mindset and that sort of thing. So it seems to be some sort of a change around about the age of 17 or 18. So you either leave the sport or you continue on, but then you start to take it more seriously. Do you find the same thing in the US?
I would have to say no. I think for us, there's a lot of opportunities after like high school. We have a lot of adult leagues. I know, like, a lot of people are here they just bowl for fun. They bowl 1 or 2 nights a week in a league, and it's just something they do. They're able to get out of the house and just kind of relax for a night and go out and have some beers and have some fun. But I think we have a lot of opportunities after the youth bowling we still have so many tournaments that allow people to just compete and just to have fun bowling. I work at a bowling center, so I see all the different kind of events we run and just league bowlers that come out and bowl. I don't know what leagues look like for you guys, or if you have those, but for us, like, I know for the bowling center aspect, their main goal is to keep leagues going and to have them as big as they can, because they say that league kind of are what, like, build a bowling center. That's like your everyday customers. They come back each year. They're here multiple nights a week, so they're the bowlers that they try and keep happy to keep the bowling centers running.
Yeah, we have leagues here, but what we're finding is a lot of bowling centers are not interested in tournaments or leagues or whatever. They just, they make more money from the general public just going in bowling for fun. And it's sometimes a little bit difficult to get the bowling center owners, managers, or whatever on board with competitive bowling or bowling as a sport. It sounds like it might be different in the US. Obviously, I think you have more bowling centers. But what do you find it is any sort of resistance from bowling centre owners in allowing leagues and tournaments, or are they open to that?
Yeah, we definitely have. I mean, there's a variety. There's some bowling centers that tend to stay more to just the open play and getting just people to come in and have fun with their families. But then there's some bowling centers, like I've been very fortunate to grow up at Mardi Gras Lanes, where we have the guy who runs our bowling center, Brian. He has been huge to promote the sport, and especially the youth side. He's done everything we've needed. He runs tournaments, he hosts tournaments, he does everything he can to help us out and to allow us to achieve our goals and our dreams. So we have a lot of tournaments in my area just because of him, that he looks around and finds people wanting to run tournaments and he'll host them for us. But we do have a lot of bowling centers, at least in this area. I know that especially in Illinois, I know there's probably 20 to 30 bowling centers within 45 minutes to an hour of me. So in all different directions, I know that we can go anywhere, and there's usually a tournament every weekend somewhere for youth bowlers, for adult bowlers, for anyone who wants to bowl.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of bowling centres. I mean, we probably have quite a few here, but
We have 150.
in what area in the country? As few as that?
I think that's how many are sanctioned.
Oh, sanctioned, yeah. So, I mean, the UK is not massive. I mean, it's about, well, you probably fit the UK into the size of Texas or somewhere like that. So 150 bowling centres. It's still not a lot. A lot of smaller ones that are there just for fun. I saw one just literally this weekend. I didn't even know it was existed. It was in like a back of a fairground. But obviously that's not a serious bowling centre. It's there just for fun. And but, from when we were in the US, I've seen the bowling centres are much bigger. In fact, everywhere the bowling centres seem to be bigger than in the UK. Like in France, where we do the promotion tour every year, there's a lot more lanes. But a typical bowling centre in the UK now, if it's got like 20 something lanes, and it's a pretty big centre. But I know in the US you have a lot more lanes than that normally.
Yeah, I would say for us, like a smaller center would be about 24 lanes. Probably about an average would be 32 lanes, but we tend to have a good amount that are 48. We have, I know Stardust and Addison, which is about an hour away from me, has 84 lanes, and we have lots of bowling stadiums. We got the National Bowling Stadium in Reno, and we got all the bowling centers in the casinos in Vegas that have 70 to 80 lanes. So we definitely have some large bowling centers here.
Yeah, it's an advantage because, as I said, we had a bowling centre here in Sunderland many years ago, and I think they had 32 lanes, and it was probably one of the biggest. But that was demolished, and they built a supermarket on top of it in the end. But you very rarely get any in the UK with that many lanes now. So you've got the advantage that you've got more bowling centres. The bowling centres are bigger, and there seems to be a lot more appetite for tournaments and leagues. But what we find here in the UK is that people running the tournaments tend to be the same people over and over again. And and the volunteers, and if it wasn't for those people doing that sort of thing, then the bowling wouldn't be as popular. So I guess you mentioned a guy called Brian. I guess you have the same in the US, but on a much bigger scale.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely the same people that we see running tournaments, but we have much more of them. I know for us, we see it at the youth level. I mean, in Illinois itself, in Northern Illinois, there's 3 different tours for junior kids, for youth kids to bowl. I mean, that gives us 3 tournaments each month to bowl at the minimum. That's not even including, we have 2 tours in Wisconsin. There's 2 tours in Indiana, and those are all close enough to drive down for the day and bowl. But just the ability to bowl, at least at the youth level in my area, is just unbelievable how many opportunities there is.
Mm-hmm. So say, in 5 or 10 years time, it all works out for you. What does sort of life look like for you?
Yeah, I think after college, everything goes exactly how you want it to. I'll be bowling on tour, which right now tour is about 4 or 5 months of the year, and then the other 6-7 months of the year, hopefully I can be either run clinics or coaching, that would be ideal. Or maybe it's running tournaments, or maybe it's bowling amateur events throughout the other 6-7 months of the year. Maybe it's working on doing broadcasting for baseball games or basketball games, whatever it ends up being. I know for one thing, I do want to compete on the PBA tour in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm. So talking about, the future of bowling itself, where do you see bowling going over the next couple of years or even the next decade?
Yeah, right now it's kind of hard to tell. I know that there's a lot of talks going around on different things, but I think there's a lot of potential for it. I also think there's a lot of potential for it to not have much success. It's kind of in question right now. I hope it goes the right way and it can have a lot of success. I know as far as the amateur side, I think the amateur side is doing really good and it's growing greatly. The professional side, this year having a lot more open events without PTQs was huge for a lot of bowlers. So I hope that continues to kind of grow and allows more people to get in the events and allows for higher prize funds. But I think the future of the sport, I think it's looking good for the youth side of things as well, and definitely at the collegiate level. There's a lot more college programs growing and getting better. I think the social media side of bowling has been pretty good. The sport is getting promoted in the right ways. So I think as long as we have the right people out there promoting the sport and allowing it to grow, I think it could be headed in the right direction.
Yeah, so you mentioned it could either go one or the other way. In your mind, what do you think is needed to make sure bowling succeeds and does as well as it can do?
I think to have it on TV as much as possible, the more that the everyday person is able to flip through channels and bowling pops up in it. Maybe they just watch for 10, 15 minutes, but to get them tuned in and more knowledgeable on the sport, I think is huge. So just to be able to grow the sport, I think to find a way to break through and get it more attention on whether it's like ESPN or Sports Center, those kind of platforms, I think will help grow the sport. It'll get people more interested. So I think just to be able to have it on those national platforms as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. And then for someone who kind of, is maybe just starting out or, is maybe wanting to try and get to that professional level one day, what kind of piece of wisdom or advice would you kind of offer to those guys?
Yeah, I mean, just to continue to practice as much as you're able to. I would say definitely start to try and compete at those higher levels sooner. Because I mean, the sooner you can get out there and learn, the better. It's kind of in an environment that you can't really recreate. So to be able to get out there and see what that level's like and compete at that level as early an age you can is definitely beneficial.
Mm. So then, for you as a bowler, after you stopped bowling and you kind of that's your career over, how do you kind of hope that you leave? Like, what type of legacy do you hope to leave on the sport?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, even if I don't have success as a competitor, I think as my legacy at the end of the day can just be that I help the sport grow and I help the sport improve. I think that'll be the perfect legacy for me, just to be able to make the sport better and grow and hopefully have it be a mainstream sport as they call it. But just to have as many people rolling balls down the lane as possible and to allow the ability and privilege for anyone who wants to be able to bowl.
Mm-hmm. And one final question, and obviously we're trying to help bowling grow and do our part, although albeit be quite a small part, we're trying to do our part, and to keep this podcast alive, we need to be able to keep bringing bowlers on, so what bowler would you nominate to come onto the podcast next, to someone you think that you could help bring on and has a great story to tell and would benefit the bowling community by coming on the podcast?
Yeah, I would have to say Gianna Brandolino would be my pick. I've grown up with her and bowled with her, and I think she definitely has some good stories from the kind of like the female side of the youth bowling over here, and she's had success she won the PBA LBC this last I think it was in the fall. So she's going to be competing at the women's tour this year. So I think she definitely would have some cool things to share.
Okay, Landin, it's been good. It's been really interesting to talk to you. We wish you the best of luck in your PBA career. It's very early days now, but you've had a great start so far, and we definitely think it's going to continue pretty well for you. So thank you for your time. It's been much appreciated. And that's about all from this edition of the SpareTime Podcast, sponsored by ADR Wear, with no studio lights, except my torch, but he doesn't like that. So from me, Nigel, and from him,
Ben,
we're going to say goodbye. If you like what you've been watching today, don't forget to subscribe, to like, and put any comments down there below. And we'll be back at some other point with more SpareTime Podcast. Bye.
Bye.